Hello everybody, welcome again to Punks and Pinfalls. This is Gigi, as always joined by
C-Dub.
And we're going to talk about the world of indie music and indie wrestling. So right out of the gates, last night, big show at Rockstar Pro Arena. We've been hyping it for the last few weeks. Hail to the King.
Survived Snowfest.
Yeah. What was our total? What did we get?
They on the news. The news kept going back and forth because where we were at is they kept saying we got rain, so that made it compact. So they were saying between 5 and 8 inches. But I say we got 3, then a little bit more. I'm saying we got about 7 or 8 inches. Also, I'll agree with, but a decent amount.
Yeah, we got dumped on pretty heavy. I was personally snowed in, couldn't get my car out yesterday. It sucked.
And I'm skipping winter with their broken leg, so I've not seen winter this year. So it's been nice. 2015 winter has been great.
Yeah, it was so stressful trying to get ready to get the venue open and everything for the show, and we had to plow our lot, and it was a nightmare. And we were really worried. We're like, man, a lot of local clubs were closing. A lot of local concerts in the region were canceled.
Wrestling events everywhere.
Yeah, and we got dumped on, and Ohio, our part of Ohio, was shutting down. And it was still almost a sellout. Had it not been the weather, they would have sold that place out. Like, it was packed. So, people were real excited to see Hail to the King and the Initiative. And Hail to the King are no more. They announced their new name is Denialist. So if you see that on a poster or see that in a CD store, Denialist, formerly Hail to the King. And great job, great show, packed house, fun night despite snowpocalypse.
Did anybody else really stick out on the bill that night?
The crowd was into everybody. It was we had a bunch of bands: Absent Youth, Eternal Void, Believe, When Tigers Broke Free. But you know how it is. Trying to run the show. I don't get to enjoy the show.
Yeah. People always ask, they're like, "How was the band?" And it's like, it sounded great. Like, that's why I always, if it's a band I always go try to get a CD afterwards so I can at least go back and somewhat enjoy it.
Yeah, when you're a promoter and you book all these rock concerts and work all these rock concerts and you see so many bands, you don't always get to see the band. You're so busy. We're running around at the concession stand, running the office, checking with the sound guy, checking time, making sure bands are on and off when they're supposed to. And, you're just running around. And then, just kind of watching the security guards and making sure that, the moshing stays friendly. Making sure that the dancing doesn't get too rough and turn into fights.
Well, I think we're lucky at the arena now that we're going into like our third year. That the first year or so, people had to fill out what the pit rules were for the club, and I think people know what the pit rules are. Like, we allow you to do what you want to do, but you gotta think of the person next to you. Like, just be kind to your neighbor. But I think now people know the rules, so it's.
It's very peaceful.
As much. Yeah, it's very much peaceful.
There's always a little hole opens in the middle of the floor for the mosh warriors to do their crazy spinning kicks and, flailing arms and backflips. Sometimes those kids get creative.
Yeah.
And as long as it stays friendly and as long as, they don't target people, we just let them have fun.
One of my favorite pit incidences at the arena a long time ago was Salman Crow, Sammy Callahan, was a security guy there. And, he's talking about how he's really getting in shape and everything, and how he's lifting weights. And some kid who's like 16 walks up and is like, I do parkour too to stay in shape. And Sammy's just look on this kid is like, you do parkour? What the hell? And then later on in the pit, like, they're doing like these crazy, like, kicks and stuff, and one hits Sammy, and Sammy like gives the kid look like stop, and then the kid again like gives him like the hardcore kid like kick a little too close, so Sammy just like, the kid had like a wife beater shirt on, and the kid turns around and Sammy just like rips the shirt off like a tablecloth on a table from a table, and the kid just has this shock of like, holy shit, and Sammy just looks up and then drops the shirt, and like, it's no more, the kid stopped at that point. So, but yeah, that was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, it's always great, when we have professional wrestlers at our disposal to hire as security guards.
Yeah. So. Especially ones who, will come to the arena for, weekly wrestling show and stuff, but they never are there when it switches over to, the Rock Club venue, and it blows their minds, because, sometimes there's 21-year-olds, sometimes there's, grown-ass 40 to 50-year-olds there, and sometimes we have, 16-year-olds there, and when they come to the shows, it's, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, music, and they're just what the hell is going on? It kind of just, culture shock completely to them.
Yeah, the club transforms. It's so funny, people who've never actually been in there, I'll hear people say, well, do the bands play in the ring? No!
Yeah.
The ring is torn down. The ring isn't even in the building, Yeah, it transforms into a rock venue. There's a big, huge stage and lights and nice sound system, and it's a big room. You can fit 400 people in there. And last night for Denialist, it was almost at capacity. It was packed.
No, good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, I always love also when bands come out of town and they hear wrestling goes on there, and they come in and there's no ring. Yeah. And their dreams are crushed.
They're bummed.
They're so bummed that it's not. They're we've been talking for days. This has been our inspiration for days. Our hope on this tour that we're going to see a place with a ring. This is going to be so great. And we get there and there's no ring, and we're sorry. So
yeah, it's pretty funny. We've had a lot of touring bands come through that are you find out are wrestling fans, and so many of them want to come through and play at a wrestling show. We often don't mix the two worlds, but every once in a while there'll be a special event where a band might play a wrestling event.
But it is always funny to you invite a band from out of town. They play and the bass player's hey, I love wrestling, blah blah, and we'll totally chat with you about and to find out who's really into it and stuff. And we sometimes give them a couple DVDs, and they're oh, I'm going to watch these on tour, thank you, and stuff. So,
yeah, it's so funny. Last night, we actually sold a few Rockstar Pro Wrestling DVDs at the concert. It's people that had heard of, were familiar with the product, and they were oh, wow, you got DVDs for sale at the concession stand? And
that is one of the things I also love about our crowd is that there's a lot of kids who come, last night, who bought the DVDs, and they're so curious about the wrestling part once they come to the rock shows and they see the posters and everything, and they want to come check it out. And now we have this pretty steady following of I don't know, scenester metal kids and pop punk kids, kids you would not see at your wrestling events, but for some reason should go to wrestling events because they seek out indie bands and different events to go to. But it's nice when you look out in the crowd and you see these people who would normally not be at a wrestling show who are ours and who are a huge portion of it and are really into it.
Yeah, a large percentage of our audience look more like they're going to a rock show than a wrestling show.
Yeah. And there was a podcast about somebody who kind of they came to one of our shows and talked about the podcast, and they'd never been to wrestling. And when I was listening to it, one of the things I really enjoyed was they looked around, they're this is so crazy diverse. There's your 16-year-old metal kid, and there's literally your grandma. There's your mom, your lady who just got off work with a couple kids. There's the two mid-20-year-old dudes just hanging out black, white, no age, anything. Social class. It was everywhere. And so
people from all walks of life are wrestling fans.
Yeah. So. Well, do we have any more events this week? We kind of went a little.
Oh, yeah. Let's plug all the upcoming shows at the arena. And as always, you can go to rockstarproarena.com for more information on the concerts. There are links to buy tickets for all the upcoming shows. And this Friday, February 27th, Lorna Shore coming back. They were in town last July. They played Rockstar Arena in July when they were touring with Within the Ruins. And now they're coming back doing a headlining show. Local bands Ascension, Oracle, and Grayscale Blonde are on that show. That's this Friday, February 27th, 7 p.m. The following night, my band, Legbone, will be playing at the venue. So... rare occasion wrestling fans, if you've never seen me in the world outside of wrestling, if you've never seen my band play, I'm bringing it right to the arena. So hey, come check out my band if you're into hardcore punk. Great bill, real diverse bill of hardcore and punk bands. Call It December, Pariah, Yerf, and Chub City will be playing with us on Saturday. So 2 shows this weekend. Lorna Shore on Friday the 27th, and my band Legbone, Saturday the 28th. Coming up in March, Tuesday, March 3rd, Survive This and The Paramedic. Two Punch Gun will be on that show as well. Thursday, March 12th, Full of Hell. We've been plugging that show for a few weeks. Go back to the last few podcasts. You can hear some live Full of Hell recordings open and close the shows. Oh, by the way, did I plug that? Hey, before I forget, Grave Robber opened tonight's show. The music that you heard at the beginning of today's podcast is a great band based out of Indiana, Grave Robber, horror punk band. They'll be coming to town Friday the 13th. So those are back-to-back nights. Full of Hell, March 12th, and then Grave Robber, Friday the 13th. And then Saturday, March 21st, Byzantine. Bearer of Bad News, Horlet, and National Headcase are on that show. Again, rockstarproarena.com. All this stuff I just plugged, all the links to buy tickets, rockstarproarena.com.
Just go to that website, and you should be able to find everything about those. But yeah, and all the shows are always all ages, and stuff, and a little bit of everything. Like we try to get, a little bit of metal, punk, a little diversity. I think we had I have to wait to confirm the date. There's like a country guy coming from Detroit.
Yeah, I'm real excited. As soon as that's confirmed, I'll be posting all over Facebook about that because it's fun when we do these shows and you get artists that you're actually a fan of. They're like, oh hey, yeah, I want to book that band just because I want to see them.
Yeah, I mean we're open to like everything, like country. Like there's some country like pop country I'm not really into, but like your Hanks and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're real outlaw country. You're singer-songwriter country. The modern country we call Walmart country. It's just pop music and a cowboy hat.
Mm-hmm. There is sometimes that like I am watching every once in a while. I don't know. I try to actually look at newer bands and like sometimes the new country bands I can't like. And then you have these pop rock bands supposedly, and I can't really sometimes tell the difference. Like. I know people are huge fans of the Georgia Line or Florida. Yeah, and I'm like,
they're the Nickelback of country.
Yeah, like, I'm kind of confused because I was like, they're a country band, and I heard, I'm like, I get, okay, like, so, like, sorry if anybody's a big fan of them, but, like, to me, that's not, like, country.
Yeah, but it's homogenized for the masses. It's
very
very polished and very produced and... Yeah.
They were on Raw, weren't they?
Oh man, they've been on there a bunch. They've done a bunch of different like campaigns with WWE, and they've used Florida Georgia Line songs for the themes to pay-per-views. So yeah, they've done a lot of cross-promotional stuff with them. But yeah,
they got good popular. They're like everywhere.
Yeah, they're popular. I mean, somebody's buying their records. It's like Nickelback. It's like nobody wants to admit to liking them, but they sold millions of records, so somebody bought it.
Yeah, it goes back to what was it? Not Alto Bridge, Creed. When the guy, isn't there like always these, I don't know if there are real photos about the guy's like poor now, the guy from Creed, the lead singer.
Oh yeah, I've seen him go crazy on the internet.
For like a second they were like the like band, and now you see pictures of that guy like homeless and shit. I don't know if they're real or not.
Yeah, just invest your money wisely, kids. So many bands make so much money, and they have a great career, and they don't plan for the future, and they don't plan for, hey, what happens if a few years from now maybe we lose a guitarist, or maybe we change labels, or maybe we're not touring as much, and whatever little factor goes into they're not selling as many records and they're not making as much money. And we all know that, nowadays with the digital downloads and all that, like, nobody makes money off record sales anyway.
It's like touring and, like, little deals you make selling, like, stickers and T-shirts and stuff.
Yeah, and licensing, it's all about, nowadays, it used to be the thing bands were so against, it's like, oh, don't sell out, don't do commercials, and now bands are like, man, if only we could get our song in a video game.
Well, I think, when you come to when you make the money, it's like sometimes with pro athletes, like, yeah, you bought that $5 million house, but the taxes on it are like $1 million. Are you going to make that much money your whole life,
Yep.
So some of the smart guys buy houses they know they can, like, afford when they're, like, 60 or 70 to pay the taxes on it and stuff. Because
yeah, we were just having this conversation before we started recording about some funny where are they nows in the wrestling world when you find out that different pro wrestlers, as they aged and retired and got out of the business, went on to really normal jobs, and you find out about people becoming like a chiropractor or a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm. It started about a mustache conversation because who was it? Tony
Schiavone, yes.
Tony Schiavone. I was like, he's kind of creepy when he had a mustache for a few years. And,
and
you told me, no, it went on for much longer. Like, there's time without the mustache was the short time.
Yeah, it's funny because I grew up watching the old NWA stuff, and so I've seen that guy announce wrestling for a couple decades, and the mustache would always come and go. And
I was like, what did when the merger happened when WWE bought WCW? Was he part of it? And you were kind of like, I don't really remember.
Yeah, I don't.
Didn't really what happened to Tony Schiavone. So
he's been interviewed in a few of their like DVDs, like WCW DVDs and things that they've put out. But he started out as a baseball announcer before he was a wrestling announcer, and from what I understand, that's what he's doing now. He's in Atlanta or wherever he's based out of now. He's a local baseball announcer again.
See, that makes sense. Is what's his name back to selling like baseball cards and stuff? He was the TNA guy.
Which guy?
When I think of his name, I'll think of it here in a second. But he was he sold stuff like QVC. I don't think he was quite QVC, but he sold stuff on TV, and he became an announcer.
Oh, God. Oh, damn it. Yeah, he was that really annoying hype man.
He's saying Adam West, but that's not what his name is. That's Batman.
Wow, I'm having a terrible brain fart. I don't remember that guy's name. What the hell
is he back selling shit on TV?
Somebody listening to this, you remember that guy that used to always hawk everything on the old TNA shows, if you remember. Let us know, because I'm having I can't remember. It was like Don West.
Don West.
I knew it'd come to me.
But he started by selling like coins or some shit or baseball cards on TV, and then bam.
Oh yeah.
Sidekick on.
Yeah, look at Eric Bischoff. He the infamous audition tape he sent WWE trying to get an announcing job, and he just started out as like the C-string announcer on the shows that nobody watched, and then ended up becoming the executive who ran the company.
It's so crazy. It's just like I've been going back and I watched some of the old Raws, and the guy who was the announcer, the third announcer on like the first few Raws, and he did like Vince McMahon impressions, and he did really bad comedy impressions of people, and he was only on for like, I don't know, I'd have to go back like a handful of episodes, but he was like the other commentator, and you're like, how in the hell did that guy get that job?
Yeah, in the more modern era, it would be somebody like Mike Adamle. Remember him?
No.
Mike Adamle was, I believe they made him like the general manager of ECW under the WWE brand. Remember, he was an announcer that they brought in, and they really hyped him up because he had been, I don't remember his resume. He seemed cheesy game show host.
Oh, is this the guy who mispronounced like everybody's name?
Yes, his debut, he called Jeff Hardy Jeff Harvey.
Yes.
And so like right out of the gate, you're like, okay, you're 20 seconds into your career and you've already botched, and you called a major star the wrong name. Yeah. So now the fans just shit on you because they know you're not really a fan of the product. No. You're just somebody reading a cue card. And I think you can tell that. Some guys, even announcers and referees and guys who aren't the athletes competing, but they have a long career because they go into other avenues.
Mm-hmm. There's just so many guys that are like great wrestlers, and like later in their careers, just like you couldn't offer that guy a job. You got that guy, and that guy doesn't even know who the fuck Jeff Hardy is, and he's your number one. And I understand, he's got, but still, out of the hundreds of thousands of guys like involved in no wrestling, you couldn't.
Yeah, because it's a marketing team somewhere. It's some corporate suit in an office who decides that they need a youth movement and they need young, hip broadcasters, and they bring in a new flock of people, and then some of them, will go on to have long careers, and some of them will be a flash in the pan.
And some of it is probably who like, oh yeah, that was blah blah blah. So he knew who so and so, and they got a tryout, and he sounded good. And
it's crazy when you hear about how some people got their jobs. Like some guys, like a Goldberg who was a football player who worked out at Sting and Luger's gym. That's how he was discovered, and they said, hey, you should come train, be a wrestler.
Well, I heard some guys actually like would cruise like college campuses, and I'm like, how are they not getting arrested just like cruising around? Like I just see somebody in like a disguise, like JR in like a disguise, like at like Oklahoma U, like like checking people out walking across, and it's like, how's the cops not get called or some shit? Like, dude, seriously, like, stop. Or like going to gyms and looking for, and what's he look? I'm looking for the one with the thick thighs, or like what the fuck do you go look for that somebody working out at a gym can tell? You know, like, I don't know.
You just made a great story pop in my head. And, we always said that great tour stories are going to get included on here. I want to get the man simply known as Michael. I want to get Ben Parker in here to do some tour stories with me, because we've shared some great stories on the road. But one time, a band I was in some small town, middle of nowhere, playing some all ages show at a high school auditorium. And we get lost, and we can't find the high school auditorium. And we have to pull over and ask for directions. And we're in a rented box van with no windows. And the tattooed, bearded guy hops out and asks where the high school is. I'm sure that didn't
with
seem...
no windows box car.
I'm sure that didn't seem creepy at all.
Excuse me, sir. Do you know where we can get some candy when the high school is at?
The bizarre, surreal things you find yourself in. For anybody listening, I'm going to get Michael in here for a segment sometime. We're going to talk about the Iowa race riot.
Oh, so, yeah, he's hinted about that on there. I'm really only talk a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to go into it because I want to do it with both of us on the show, because it was just such a ridiculous story. So there'll be great tour stories, great road adventures that we'll share throughout these podcasts.
Yeah. Crazy. We've never actually were on the road at the same time together.
Yeah, it's really weird. All the years that we've promoted shows together and played shows together, and you and your brother have booked so many shows that my bands over the years have played, and you've road managed bands I know, and Ben has road managed bands I know, but somehow you and I never actually went on tour together.
Yeah.
Worked together a million times in Dayton, but you and I never actually traveled together.
No. But happens. So, but yeah, you guys did what? 2 weeks together? 3 weeks?
2 different.
Because they dumped you guys in California and go, we're flying back.
Yeah.
Fuck you guys. We're getting our airplanes. Smell you later.
Yeah, you don't realize when you're putting together tours and you get packages, and when you're a smaller, lesser known band, it's always good to get support.
As we said, knowing somebody.
Yeah, if you can get on a bigger tour, if you can be the opening act that's touring with a bigger name, then you get to play to their audience every night, and their agent will make sure that you get some money, and you're guaranteed to sell more merch just because you're playing in front of more people.
And they'll see you, and a trick to getting on that also is not only who you know, but that band, if they happen to be older and they don't want to really carry their amps anymore and shit, you're like, hey, we'll carry our shit, you can use our shit, you don't even have to lift anything, sir. And they're like, wait, I don't have to lift anything, I just show up and play? Fuck yeah, come with me. It does help.
There's so many...
little hint to bands out there.
Little back alley deals, and there's so many things where labels and management companies will buy things for bigger bands to take their bands out on tour, opening for them. And band I was in did a tour with the Slackers, and Ben, Michael, as wrestling fans know him, was their tour manager.
And they're road veterans. They're grown-ass men. They've been around the world, so...
And literally around the world.
Yeah.
So, they fly into tours and get a rental van and rent equipment. And then sometimes they'll get a tour where they'll have their support act backline, meaning that our equipment gets set up and then both bands use it. So we provide the backline for a Slackers tour, and we go out on this Midwest tour. It was 2 weeks around the Midwest, and it was a great tour. And then at the end of the tour, they fly home, and we still have to keep touring.
Matter of fact, how does your tour end, Gigi, with the van?
Well, different tour.
Oh, is that different tour? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the second tour we did, basically the first tour was basically one of those who you know, and we had opened for them in Ohio a couple times, and our buddy was their road manager, and hey, we have nice gear, you can use our backline, and
don't lift that shit.
We greased the wheels a little bit and got this really nice support tour. And then on that tour, we were in the Iowa race riot, and I will save that story for another episode.
Oh, that was the first one, was the race riot.
Okay. So then after being in the Iowa race riot.
And knowing that you guys will kick somebody's ass if they need to be.
After that situation went down, then the Slackers had our back.
Yeah.
Then, we were road veterans together. We'd been through some shit together. It was like being in the trenches. And we had some stories to share. So then we got invited to come do another tour, and this time it was 2 weeks on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. And the West Coast tour...
and some clubs had seen you previously, and so they want you...
Yeah, we had, some places were cities that, we did well in, and, in other cities where, we were using this tour to get our foot in the door there and hoping that when we come back, we'll get to play to more people because, that was the band that opened for the Slackers.
Yeah.
And, the second tour was... the last night of our tour with them was at the El Rey Theater in Los Angeles. El Rey seats about 1,000 people. Big, for you Ohioans, it seats about the size of like Bogarts in Cincinnati or Newport in Columbus. It's about 1,000, 1,200 seat venue. And the Slackers were on Hellcat Records. It's based out of L.A., so... their label is in L.A. So,
they do well in L.A.
Yeah, it's sold out show at the El Rey Theater. And we're on our way there. It's our last night with them. And they're going to go drop off their rental van and fly home.
And you guys still got trucked back.
Yeah, we're still on tour.
Yeah.
So, when you're on tour with the same band, when bands tour together and you're going to the same place every night. So a lot of times you might swap members in the vans, and guys will, guys from the Slackers would hop in our van, and guys from my van would hop in their van just to change up the conversation.
Change the environment a little bit, yeah.
You see the same guys, and you get so sick of each other, and it's like, it's new, fresh conversation, new people to talk to on these long 8-hour drives. You can't make fun of the guy in the van if you're in the van with him. You got to switch vans so you can make fun of him. Yeah. So I remember Vic, the singer of the Slackers, was in our van, and I was in their van, and I don't even remember what happened. I think maybe it started with Black Smoke. I don't remember, but something happened and the van died, and we're like in the desert outside of LA, like getting ready to drive.
Literally in the desert.
Yeah, we're literally in the middle of nowhere, and we're just like, crap, what do we do? So like, the Slackers are like, well, we're going to make it to the show. Sorry, guys, good luck. And, they had to get all their members back in their van and go get our check-in time. So they go and set up at the show, and we're like, what the hell do we do? Mm-hmm. Our thinking is, well, if we at least make it to the show, we'll get paid, and we'll sell some merch, and then we'll figure it out.
We'll make some money instead of no money.
So we literally had our van towed and dropped off directly in front of the El Rey Theater in Los Angeles.
My favorite part of the story is, what did the owners say to you guys on the van?
As we're loading in, they're like, oh, not the first time we've seen this. We've seen bands towed in before. So we played the gig and had a great show, and it was packed, and a great time. And then the Slackers hop in their flights and go back to New York, and we don't have a van. So we had several shows up and down the West Coast, and we had a friend's band in Huntington Beach let us use their van. So we finished the California dates, but we couldn't just take their van across country. They let us use it for a few shows around their home state.
That was it.
So we ended up having to rent a van for the trip home, and it was crazy. But the adventures of touring. I've junked multiple vans all across the country.
How many vans do you think you've gone through in your?
Altogether.
Altogether, what's your record of vans, PG?
Over the last 20 years, I don't even know. A lot.
More than a dozen?
One. Oh, yeah.
Oh, more than... Shit. I was going to go 9 or 8.
Between every band, because every band, knock on wood, except Legbone, my current band has had the same van forever. And, she's old. She's had her problems. She's currently not running.
Yeah.
But we're going to have her in the shop soon. But...
does your van have a name now?
Oh,
don't have a name?
What did they call her? Georgia.
Georgia?
Yeah. That was her name before I was even in the band. It had something to do with the tour story or where they bought it.
Okay.
Or
I just know every band usually names their van something.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with it. I don't call it that, but
I like how you're in denial. Like I don't even recognize it as that name. Yeah, what do you call it, Gigi? Just van?
Oh yeah, it's just a van.
Oh, see.
You know, where sometimes it's the green room.
Okay.
You know, sometimes if you're in a small bar and they don't really have like a backstage area, it becomes the dressing room. It becomes, you know, like you find yourself hanging out in your van just so you can have some quiet time.
Mm-hmm. The nap room. I've done that where I've been the one who's stayed and drove all night. And
people think that like touring in a rock band or wrestlers, you know, the same kind of lifestyle. You know.
Oh, it's the same thing. Just you take less gear as a wrestler.
You know, as a wrestler, you can get a carload of guys and a couple suitcases of gear. Whereas in a band, you know, you got a huge van and a trailer and full of equipment.
Amps and I forgot to get extra string, you know, strings and shit like that.
Yeah, there's always pit stops. There's always, you know, constantly got to replace something. There's always maintenance on something. But yeah, crazy tour stories. You'll hear a lot of them, but I'm going to specifically save the Iowa Race Riot for when Ben is on the show.
LA is always a good, like, I've only been in LA once, and I was hired by Epitaph to do kind of like a weird like promotion thing for some bands and stuff. So I drove actually from Ohio all the way to California by myself in a month and a half, which was an experience. And I got to go to LA once for a week, and I had a great LA story. It was a long time ago, and I don't know, my mom, for some reason, she always had these crazy, like, be careful, there's blah, blah, blah there. You know, so her thing was, be careful in LA, there's weirdos out there. And I'm like, whatever. You know, my mom's a Midwest mom. Like, I was like, okay, Mom, you know. And so I'm driving out there, and there's all kinds of crazy shit that happens. But I finally get to LA, and I get in my hotel, and, you know, I'm fucking taking a shower and just chilling out for a second. And I'm going to try to find some spots where I got to do some flyering and meet with some radio people and blah, blah, blah. And so I start to leave my hotel, and I can't leave my hotel room. This is years and years ago. I can't leave my hotel room, and there's like fucking SWAT team everywhere. Guys with like huge machine guns and the fucking everything SWAT team, you know. And I'm like, what the hell? And the hotel's like, guys are like, no, go back to your room. It's okay. It's nothing to do with the hotel. It's just something outside, and go. And so I go back to my hotel room, and at this point I like call my mom, and like I'm hanging out. I haven't talked to her in a few days, and I'm talking about I'm in LA and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm watching the news, and what happened was a fucking gorilla escaped from the zoo and was sitting at the bus stop outside the hotel. They had to get like police in there to capture this gorilla. And funny thing was, if you go back years ago, it was on The Daily Show, and it was when Arnold Schwarzenegger was running for governor. And they showed it, and they're like, Schwarzenegger wants to show that he's a common person by waiting at the bus stop, and they show this gorilla at the bus stop. Yeah. But anyway, I tell my mom, I'm like, I see why I can't leave the hotel. There's a gorilla at the bus stop, and I that's why there's probably trying to capture it. And her response was, I told you there's weirdos in LA. And I'm like, what the hell is that? It's a gorilla, you know. So,
that's a great classic mom response.
Yeah, it was a great mom response. I told you there's weirdos there. So.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in LA between touring and bands, and then you know you make friends, and you know, made trips out there just to see friends, and then I've as we say in the wrestling world, my shoot job, my day job. You know, for years I was working in LA, and so I spent a lot of time out there. Almost relocated out there a couple times, and it really is the worst place on earth.
The one thing about LA is like I've been pretty much every state except for Hawaii, Alaska, and Florida for some odd reason, but I've pretty much been everywhere else in the United States. And like when I first went to New York, I was, wow, this is great. It blew me away. You know, a couple other places blew me away, bigger cities. And when I got to LA, it was kind of a letdown.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, where's the shit? You know, and it's like you drive everywhere, and like there's barely any like super huge buildings and shit, you know, and like I was just so unimpressed when I got to LA.
Yep, first time I went to LA was touring with a band I was in called the Migraines. And it was my first nationwide tour. It was the first time, you know, traveling cross country, getting in the van for 6 weeks and not coming home, covering a lot of territory. And my first trip to the West Coast, and I remember all the clubs that you heard about growing up, that all the, you know, classic bands played. You go to the Sunset Strip, and it's the Whiskey and the Roxy, and and when you get there and you see it, and you're like, oh, that's it?
That was it.
It's like so disappointing. Like you so romanticize it and build it up in your mind, and then you see it, you're like, oh.
Yeah, I remember walking down the strip in LA, and I'm like, and again, like when I went to New York, I was like, wow. Boston, I was like, wow. Chicago, I always like, and like Austin, like all the big, like kind of hipper cities, even Seattle, I was like, oh, I really like, I get it. But I got to LA, and I'm like, okay, someone explain the strip to me. Like, I'm missing something here, so, but maybe it was just, maybe I wasn't hanging around with the right crowd or something. I don't know.
I've made a lot of great friends out there, and there are some great people in California, but yeah, as a whole, it's my least favorite place on earth.
I like San Francisco and like Northern California much better. San Diego is even really nice. I liked San Diego, but I think my expectations of San Diego were a little bit lowered. Yeah. Like, I wasn't expecting this glorious city when I got to LA.
Well, it's right in the name. You think of Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's right there. You think of everything that they build it up to be this, palace of glittering delight, and then you get there and you're like, oh, this is it, huh?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I spent a handful of days there, and I was just like, okay, I'll go back. So
you and I have that in common. I, too, have been to all of the lower 48. I've been to every state.
Have you been to Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
So I've got you beat by one. I've been to all of the lower 48, but I've never been to Hawaii or Alaska. I've been to Canada. I've been to Mexico. I've never been overseas, so you've got me beat there. And you've toured Europe.
Yeah, I've got to do Europe a couple times, and
you actually lived over there.
Yeah, I lived there for a few years, and then I got to go back with a band a few times and see, like, I got to go up to Scandinavia where I hadn't gone before, and it was crazy up there in the Scandinavia, like Norway and Finland and stuff. But yeah,
here's another great tour story. This one involves your brother, the man simply known as Michael, host of Real Alien Talk. Let me tell you a story of Ben calling me internationally.
Oh, you've actually... Okay, this is going to be good.
I got an international call from him one time, and I won't allude to it. I'll just do an impression, and you can kind of figure it out. The conversation went like this. Dude, I'm in Amsterdam. I didn't think it could really be like this, but it is.
And that was it?
That was it. He was enjoying the fine coffee shops of Amsterdam.
That was amazing.
And made an international call to just tell me how fucked up he was.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of my favorite coming back from Amsterdam stories was I was in customs and I had a guitar with me, and they're like, okay, come here, and they put me in this little room, of course, and shit, and they look through the guitar and everything, and the guy goes, okay, you good, turn guitar on. And I'm like, I can't turn it on. Like, you have to plug in. No, turn it on. And I argued with me for like 10 minutes. He can't turn on. They went over and talked something in Dutch, and then came back over and let me go. Like, and they grabbed my bag. They had like I had been on this tour for like going on 2 months all over Europe, and I had a green. I was like the tour manager, so I did a little bit of everything, and I had this green side bag that, like, God knows who had touched this bag for the months I had been there. What the fuck had been on this bag? And they grabbed it at the airport and they start swabbing it. And that's the point. I'm like, I don't have shit, but God knows what's on that bag, man. So, but I was good. After they let me go from, figuring out I can't turn a guitar on, I got back through. So, yeah.
That ridiculous tour stories, that seems to be the theme of today's episode.
Yeah.
One time when I was younger, people who know me know that I have like gauges in my ears, and when I was a kid, I went through that human pincushion stage. I had a lot of piercings when I was younger, and another migraines tour story. We went to St. Louis for the first time. And, when you're on the road, you have a lot of downtime. People think it's so, it's a nonstop party, and it's like long hours, and a lot of, you get to the city and then you wait.
Yeah, it's a lot of waiting.
So we would always go do touristy bullshit and just go see sights. And the first time I went to the Arch in St. Louis, I had a Spinal Tap moment.
Oh, shit.
Certain piercings I had apparently were setting off the metal detectors. And the old man security guard who looked like he was 90 Like, he was this frail, old thing. And when he's patting me down, wanding me, and again, for those who have seen Spinal Tap, when my crotch sets off the alarm.
It had to be a great look at his face, and it did.
And, at the time, I had the septum ring in and big, huge gauges in my ears, and I looked at him and I said, "Oh, it's probably my piercings." And he was just like, "Move along." I don't want to know. He did not want any more information. I could have had a bomb in my pants and blown up the damn Arch in St. Louis.
He's done his job. He
just did not want to know.
Was it totally one of those things like he went, and then like that? Was it totally like that?
It was totally like the slow, like, head to toe. He starts at my head, and you're going down, and then right when you get to the crotch, and then it stops as he keeps going down.
And then at that point, he wants to go, did that just happen? Let me go back.
And after repeatedly setting off the metal detector, he finally he didn't want to know anything about my piercings, and just let me go on through.
Were you with them when they were on the Price is Right? Or was that during...
different band.
But you were with them with Price is Right.
No. That was that was before I joined that band.
Okay. I can't remember if you were part of the Price is Right crew or not.
Yeah, a band I toured with for a few years before I was in the band. They all went and were guests on The Price is Right.
And it was, Ben was part of that, but I wanted to ask him, but it was when Barker was still doing it, and he did not like the look of them and made comments thought they looked like hooligans and shit. So I wanted to ask him about that.
Hey, I put that on my resume, man. You put that on your tombstone. Like, Bob Barker said I was a hooligan.
Said I was a hooligan. No, it was good shit. Now I got a ton of... We should sit sometime and write more. What our tour stories, because I'm sure I got a shit ton, because like I got a couple of Spinal Tap moments, like, here and there, like the scene where they get lost in the underbelly of the building. Hello. We were in this. I was with this band. We were at the Belgium. They're Rock for the Vote, and in Belgium you have to vote. Like, you have no choice. So you have to go. So they ran out this huge place, and it's where they have like operas and shit. And we were literally trying... It was so big that it took 30 minutes to get from the dressing room to where the stage was. Wow. So we literally didn't want to forget anything. So, of course, I forgot something. So I found myself down in the boiler room at some level with one other guys in the band. And, like, one of the other guys who works there, who was Belgium, he's, like, talking Belgium and walkie-talkie. Like, we're completely lost in the underground of this place. And, like, we show back up, like, literally 2 hours later, and the other guy who's in the band is like, "Where the hell have you guys been?" And we're like... We gotta go back. It was something stupid like his socks or something really stupid. Like, dude, we gotta go get these. You don't know. But yeah, I've been lost in the boiler room before. So, but I can't. We're getting close to that time. And stuff.
Yeah, we went off on. I think this is going to be a great running theme too. Is a great tour stories. We'll bring up more of those in the future. But before we run out of time, let's plug some wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
Some big things happened in the world of indie wrestling last night. CZW 16, their internet pay-per-view celebrating their 16th anniversary. We saw a lot of Rockstar pros all over that show. OI4K successfully defended the CZW tag belts against Bullet Club members, the Young Bucks. And we also saw... OI4K's Nevaeh win the WSU Spirit Championship.
Yeah. That was good stuff.
So check out that iPay-per-view. Go to CZW's website and get more information, but definitely don't want to miss that show. And then also in the world of iPay-per-view... actually, before I go, another little thing. Some other Rockstar alumni that had some interesting things last night. JCW, Juggalo Championship Wrestling, also ran in Detroit last night, and Madman Pondo and Crazy Mary Dobson are your new JCW Tag Team Champions. Mm-hmm. So again, both JCW and CZW ran shows last night in Philadelphia and Detroit, respectively, and a lot of Rockstar Pro all over those shows. Also, on that same JCW show, look out for a masked wrestler, Sugoi Tora. I believe that means Super Tiger. I've seen this guy wrestle at Bizarro, based out of Ohio, and he wrestled for JCW last night. So look out for a masked man named Sugoi Tora. All right, in the world of Rockstar Pro... Friday, March 6th is our next iPay-per-view. Unstoppable, already announced. Bulldozer Matt Tremont versus Ganger. Just announced this week, Mathis will get his title shot against Jake Chris. So former
awesome. Killers
one-on-one. Check that out. RockstarProWrestling.com for more information.
Yeah, see you guys later.
My strict rider, they pierce my head.